I don't have a name for it yet, but this is the cicada I'm going to be tying. It's pretty simple, very durable, relatively realistic pattern, and it's the one I'm going to be using for the 2021 Brood X Cicada Hatch. So to start it off, I am using a size 4 2461 hook from Daiichi. And it's the exact same hook as a 2460, except that it's black. So what we're going to do first is just make a thread base so then the glue can stick and hold on and the foam won't really roll. Okay, when you make your thread base, you just whip finish and cut off your thread. So for the next step, I'm using 2 pieces of foam. This one is 4mm foam or 2 pieces of 2mm glued together, and this is 2mm foam. So what you're going to do is measure out using any sort of ruler or tape measure. You're going to rule it out to 1 1/8 inch, because that's going to be the average body size for the Brood X Cicada. And you're going to cut both the top and the bottom piece. So the thicker piece you're going to cut to 1 1/8 and the thin piece. So after you cut your 2 foam pieces to 1 1/8, what you want to do is measure the top or the bottom piece of the 2mm foam out against the hook shank, and this is going to give you a way to measure where you're going to poke the hook through the foam to put on the bottom. So there's just through the bottom, and you can measure up against the eye again, making sure that the eye is still visible. Then after that, you're gonna just get any glue that's not gel glue. So I'm using a Zment for this one. And what you're gonna do is hold the foam with your finger underneath up against, right up to the hook eye. And you're going to get your glue. Just make 2 little runs down along the hook shank and on the foam a little bit. You're just gonna wait until it dries, just blow on it a little bit. After it's dried for a little bit, just get your top piece of foam and you're gonna add more glue, this time all the way around your foam or on your foam, covering every little bit of surface. Again with the Zment. And then you're gonna take your 4mm foam, hold underneath again, and then put it right up against the hook eye like you did with the 2mm. You're gonna press down and just hold it there until it dries. Make sure you're applying pressure to every little bit of the fly, including the tag end right here. And then just wait for it to dry. So, forgot to mention, for cutting the body, you can use one Chernobyl style large foam cutter, like the punchers, or you can use some double-sided tape and cut whatever shape you want for it. Then take off one side of the tape and then stick it on, and then cut around it on your phone just with regular scissors. And use double-sided tape because it's just a little bit thicker than regular tape and it won't fall off as easy. So that's how you do the body shape. So now that's on and it's dry, we're gonna start with actually tying the abdomen now. So for the thread, I'm using 140 burnt orange UTC. 140 will allow the legs to splay out a little bit better than 70 does, and it also won't cut through the foam. So you're gonna wanna do all of your tying this time upside down. It doesn't matter how it looks like from the top, it matters how it looks like from the bottom, because that's what the fish will see. So you're gonna wanna make your first wrap as close to the hook bend as you can. What you're gonna do is you want a little bit of a tag end here. You're gonna do 2 wraps straight across, And you really don't want tight wraps, or else it's going to compress the foam too much and it'll be a really, really weird look. You want it to be a thick body. So after you do your 2 wraps, you're going to take your long tag end. What you're going to do is you're going to spin it around your thread twice, then go over. They're going to do the same thing the other way. Then go over, then do one more extra wrap. Cut your tag off, and then to build the little bar, you're just going to do a combination of half hitches and whip finishes, whatever you want. And something to remember, do your final whip finish with the hook point facing down like this, because you want to cut your thread with you want to cut your thread on the bottom, and that's because you're going to super glue it at the very end, and you want to cover all those cuts with the super glue. So here's that. Flip it around, and you're going to cut it on the bottom. Then you're just going to do that step 3 or 4 more times. Okay, so I finished with the wraps. These 2 back ones are a little close. This one's a little crooked. Just when you do it, don't do that. It won't really matter to the fish. Can't really see it. So after you've done that, you want to come up about 3/8 inch room left for the head. And what you're going to do is just start your thread again. Going to want to go about 2/3 of the way back from the front of the foam. You're gonna do the exact same thing as you did with the other ribbings. 2 or 3 wraps. Wrap your thread around the tag end to secure the thread. Then wrap it over, and there you go. So this is going to be the start of the head. So the first step of the head is, well, this time I can actually pull in a little bit, tighten it up, because this will be all covered up by dubbing anyway. So first step is going to be the wings. So this is what the wing looks like. I have it taped at the end. I make like about a dozen of these before I start tying. One of these can go through probably 2 or 3 flies about this long. So the wing is made out of a blend of orange Krystal Flash and Wapsi unique hair, which is just this stuff. You can use polypropylene as well, but I like unique hair because it's long and you can make bulk things like this. So for the wings, you want to kind of tie them not quite against the corner of the foam, like 45 degrees to the corner. I want to tie them a little bit closer in, about there. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold it flat against, do 2 wraps, pull tight, take your thumb and press down to spread the fibers. Then you're going to do 2 more tight wraps, pull it back, go in front once. Then you're going to cut it, leaving a little tag end, and you'll see why you want to leave that in just a second. You're going to repeat that step for this other side. Okay, so when you get your wings in place, just do a few more securing wraps. Make sure they are positioned right, where the split is right down the point of the tail or the body. Then what we're gonna do is take really any glue that can plastic weld. I'm using Zment again. And you're gonna go over the thread and over the butt sections. you left here. What that'll do is it'll plastic weld that all together so it won't come out, because if you don't do that, if you just pull a little bit, your entire wing will come out. So then you're gonna let that dry for like a few seconds. This glue dries pretty fast, and then you're gonna take some 2mm of whatever foam you want to use as an indicator foam. I'm choosing bright orange. You can use pink or green or whatever you want. Then you're gonna cut about a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch piece of foam that's about the width of your fly. So there's the little foam piece. They're gonna take some more super glue. Then this time you're gonna go over the back of the wings right here just a little bit. And what this will do is this will push the wings down when you tie them on. So you're gonna tie it on just like this. Make sure you wrap right in the middle of the foam. 2 wraps, pull down. Then you're gonna press down. What this will do is it'll super glue it right onto the wings, and that's what's gonna push those materials back so they're not standing upright. And do a few more little wraps to extend that gap for the legs. So then after that's done drying, you're gonna take some legs. I'm just using barred orange legs, and you're gonna want to cut maybe about an inch piece or an 1.5 inches, so about that long. You're gonna put it under your thread and then pull it over. Hold your thread with 2 fingers, make sure it's centered, and then pull against the foam. Pull down. Then you're gonna make one more wrap. This will do. Display those legs perfectly, and this is where the 140 comes in handy. If you're gonna use 70, these legs are gonna go too close together, and that's not what you want. So you want them about to the middle of the foam, maybe a little bit more towards the bottom, so you can just maneuver them a little bit so they're like that. They're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So after you get your legs in place, you're going to want to pull these legs back and make just a few wraps in front to move that thread up, because this is where you're going to put your other legs. So for these, for the front legs, you're going to cut about an inch long piece of the legs. You're going to pull all the legs back. Gonna hold the little butt end. You don't want a long one, just a little butt end of the leg so you can hold it down. Then you're going to wrap in front of all the legs twice. So after that's done, you're gonna want to maneuver it right in the same level as the other leg. And after that, fold all the legs back except for the one you just tied in. Then wrap front of it again and pull tight. And you're going to repeat that step for the other side as well. So after you got all the legs in place, you want to make sure everything is on the same level. Just maneuvering them, making sure they're all fine and dandy. So after that, you're going to take some dubbing. I'm using golden brown ice dub. This is a really good thing for a very good dubbing color for the thorax. So you're going to take a decent amount and going to spread it out in your fingers, then roll it along your thread. And you don't want it too thin. You want it a pretty decent thickness because this is going to separate your legs. So for your first wrap, you want to go in between the middle leg and the front leg. What this will do is this will push the middle leg backwards. So there's one wrap. And then for your second wrap, you're going to go in between the back leg and the middle leg. And this will center the middle leg. So there's that. And then you pull all of your legs back. Make your final wrap in front of that. And there you go, everything's really nice and centered. So after that, that's all you're gonna need to tie in. So you're gonna take your whip finisher. I'm doing hand whip finish because this is easier to do this part. You're gonna fold all of your legs back, then whip finish in front of all the legs. I'm doing 2 3-turn whip finishes. And after each whip finish, pull tight to push those front legs forward. So you pull tight. You're going to cut your thread. Make sure it's on the bottom when you cut it. Boom, there you go. So now comes all the gluing, shaping, and everything else. So first off, you're going to want to cut your legs. So before you cut them, make sure they're in the right place, all on the same level. Then to cut them, you're going to want to cut them. You can use your own judgment. I like mine pretty short. Cicadas don't really have too long legs. So about 2 barring lengths, if I'm doing a measurement, so there's 1, there's 2. About 2 barring lengths is pretty good. There you go. There's that one. Can just do a little bit more trimming on this. Then you do the front ones. I like to go bottom, or turn it to the bottom when you cut. So this side's a little bit longer, so you can just go through and cut again. So there you go. Cicadas really don't have long legs, so keep them short. Now the next step is melting everything together. Okay, so I forgot to mention this before, but for plastic welding happens between plastics when you apply CAPlus glue to it. So for CAPlus glue in fly shops, the most commonly found one is Zment, and that's what you're going to use. So Ice Dub has a lot of plastic in it, and it's going to melt really, really well, which is why I'm using it. So you're going to take your glue, and you're not going to apply it like that. You're going to want to do daps onto it. You do a few daps, then you wait. You go on to keep applying it until you'll start seeing it melt right there. So it just melts, some smoke came up, and that means everything is working how it should be. And you just do this all the way around your fly. See if I can get it on camera. Yeah, right there. That's what you want to see. Make sure you move away from your fly when that starts happening, because you don't want that in your eyes because it hurts. And the reason you want this plastic weld is because what it'll do is it'll compress and melt around your thread, making it basically indestructible fly, which is what I made this fly for, to handle as many fish as possible, because when that hatch happens, apparently it's pretty hard to make a cast without having a fish eat it. So you want to have a fly that can get through as many fish as possible before breaking. So the next thing we're going to do is cut and shape the wings. So the wings, I'm going to measure it to about, let's see here. From the front of the head, going to measure it to about 1 3/8 inch long for the entire fly. That's 2/8 inch off the back of the fly. So then you make a snip. Now, continue going through the entire thing. So you want all of your wings to be straight like that. Then we're going to do, to show there's 2 wings, is you're going to go to the middle here, and you're going to cut right down the middle, taking out some of these fibers. That'll do is have separation of the wings. You might say, why not just tie them in crisscross like 45 degrees from the point of the head anyway? So you don't need to do that. Well, then they're going to be too far apart. When you see a cicada on the water, their wings are a lot closer together. So after you do that, just go through, make sure everything's straight. Then for the final cut of the wings, you're going to go through and you're going to cut while turning your scissors to make a curved wing, to make it just a little bit more realistic, looks a little better. And there you go, you got your wings. Nice realistic looking wings to the fish with a little bit of flash. So now, here is one of the final steps of the cicada, the last material you're going to add. And you're going to be doing the eyes. So for the eyes, I'm going to be using mono eyes. You can use push pins if you want some bigger eyes, or you can do mono eyes and then coat it with UV. However you want to do it, you just want some big bulgy eyes. So to make the holes for the eyes to go in, as far to the edge of the head as you can get without cutting through it. And then you're just going to push in. Not too far, or else you can ruin the dubbing in the wings. Then you're just gonna go around once, then take it out. You can just make the hole big or small as you want. You don't want too big because you're gonna be putting some mono or whatever wire through it, and you want to touch the side so it can actually hold. You could do the same thing to the other side. It's definitely easier to do this with a bodkin, but I don't have one. So I would suggest doing it with a bodkin. So there you got little eye holes. Now, for the monofilament, I'm using just 50-pound saltwater mono, or in 0.03 inches is pretty good size, or thicker. You're going to cut about a 1/2 inch mono straight. You could do that 2 times. I do need to mention that the eyes are not necessary, but sometimes for picky fish, it could be the difference between it eating and it not. So you're going to do, after you get like 2 1/2 inch mono straights, you're going to take a lighter and you're going to hold it by the base, and just like if you're doing shrimp eyes or crayfish eyes, you're going to start the lighter and then you're just going to burn the ends. Creates nice big ball. After it's big enough, you want to blow on it so then it hardens quick and it won't drip and burn anything. You could do that for the other eye as well. So for the eyes, you just want to measure it, see how much you need to trim it, and just trim it down until it fits. So after that, you're going to take any super glue that's not gel super glue, and you're going to cover the butts with super glue. You're going to put it into the socket. You want to make sure that it's sticking out enough so then you can see it from the bottom. You can do that with both eyes. So after you put your eyes in, you just want to let it dry for a second so then you don't move it when we're doing our next step, which is coloring it. So after it finishes drying, you're going to take any red Sharpie and you're just going to coat the eyes with red, because that is the color of the Brood X eyes. Just make sure you get all the way around. So, I mean, you can see these ones are not perfectly centered. They really don't need to be. You should be able to tie about a dozen of these in 2 hours. So, doesn't matter if you make a little minor mistake, as long as it looks decent enough, it's fine. So, now for second to last step. You're going to want to take a water-based glue, and you're going to want to coat all these thread wraps right here. So you want to use a water-based glue to cover these thread wraps, because if you use a CAPlus glue, it's going to actually burn the foam and it's going to make it white. And cicadas aren't really light colored, they're very dark with orange barring or even no orange barring. They'll have black barring instead, which is why I'm going to be tying two different colors, one with orange barring and one with black barring. So you're going to take your glue, just going to coat all these thread wraps on the bottom. So you're just going to want to go on the sides a little bit, coat all the places where you cut your thread after you whip finish. Don't need to do the top because that doesn't really matter as long as the bottom and the sides are coated well. And now you're going to just wait until that all dries off. So after it dries off, you're going to be wanting to take some UV thin, and all you're going to do is coat the entire bottom of the fly up to the dubbing with it. And what this will help it do is actually do three things. It will make the bottom of the fly look a little bit more realistic and shiny to the fish. It will help it keel over and ride and land hook point down most of the time, 9% of the time you're casting it. And third thing, it will make a bigger splat. And when you're fishing cicadas, you want to slap it down on the water as hard as you can. So this last little step does three pretty important things. So last thing you need to do, you don't need to do it, but you could do it anyway because it looks better to me, is you're going to cut the little nubs of the front legs off. And after you do that, the fly is finito. So there you go. And there you go. There's the entire fly. It's pretty simple pattern. It took a while to make this because I was explaining all the steps, but in reality you should be able to tie about a dozen in 2 hours. So yeah, so the one I just tied was a trout cicada, and it was tied on the 2460 or 2461 size 4 Daiichi hook. And if you want to tie one for largemouth, smallmouth, carp, pike, pickerel, or anything else you're going to go for during the hatch, you want to use a CK52S popper hook from Mustad, and you want to use this because it'll provide a thicker gap and a thicker wire for your hook. And yeah, for the bass one, just tie it the exact same way, only difference is the hook. So yeah, this is a very simple, very durable, and pretty realistic cicada for the upcoming hatch this spring and summer.